I'm a pastor from the United States, inheriting my church from my father, who built it from scratch. He was a traditional pastor, not a fan of prophetic churches or the charismatic movement. I never understood why. Maybe it was because he wasn't a prophet himself. But as I grew older, I began to feel a stirring inside me, a sense that there was more to ministry than the traditional way of doing things. I envied prophets who performed miracles with ease, longing for that kind of power and influence. As I delved deeper into my own ministry, I began to feel stagnant. I felt like I was just going through the motions, without any real sense of purpose or direction. I was married to a wonderful woman, and we had 2 beautiful children together. But despite my outward success, I felt unfulfilled. I started to feel like I was missing out on something more, something that the prophets seemed to have. So I made a decision. I would save up enough money to travel to Malawi to visit the powerful prophet who was rumored to have the ability to impart spiritual gifts to those who sought him out. I had heard stories of his miracles, of the way he could heal the sick and bring prosperity to those who followed him. And I wanted that for myself. I convinced myself that this was the key to unlocking my true potential, to taking my ministry to the next level. And so I saved and saved, pouring all of my extra money into a fund that would eventually allow me to make the journey. My wife was skeptical, but she supported me nonetheless. She knew how much this meant to me, and she wanted me to be happy. And my children were too young to understand what was going on, but they could sense my excitement and anticipation. Finally, the day arrived. I had enough money saved up, and I booked my ticket to Malawi. I was ready to meet the prophet, to receive my spiritual gift and take my ministry to new heights. Little did I know, my life was about to take a dramatic turn. I traveled to Malawi for a powerful prophet's service. As I sat in the crowded church, the prophet's eyes locked onto mine. He began to speak, his voice booming and authoritative. "There is a pastor among us, sent from afar. Your ministry is struggling, but God has seen your dedication and faithfulness. You have been praying for a breakthrough, and it is coming." I was stunned. How did he know this? I had never shared this information with anyone in Malawi. The prophet continued, "You have been crying out to God for guidance and provision. Your heart's desire is to see your congregation grow and flourish." Tears streamed down my face as the prophet's words resonated deep within me. He spoke of my struggles, my heart's desires, and my deepest fears. It was as if he had access to my innermost thoughts and prayers. As the church service ended, the prophet's close associates approached me in the hall. "Follow us," they said, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly intensity. I hesitated for a moment, glancing around at the dispersing congregation. But something compelled me to trust them. I fell into step behind them, leaving the familiar surroundings of the church hall behind. We walked through a side door, into a narrow corridor that led to a separate building. The air grew thick with an eerie silence, punctuated only by the soft rustle of their clothes. From there, they led me to a room, their eyes fixed on me with an unnerving intensity. "The prophet will be with you shortly," one of them said, before disappearing into the shadows. But the prophet never came. Instead, a few of his close associates would occasionally enter the room, bringing food and water. Days passed, and I grew weaker, feeling a strange, draining energy emanating from the room. It was as if something was sucking the life out of me. On the 7th day, the prophet finally appeared. His eyes blazed with an otherworldly intensity as he spoke. "God wants you to be ready. You must go and serve him." He then gave me 2 beans to swallow. Afterwards, I returned home, but everything began to fall apart. My congregation dwindled, and my ministry crumbled. The offerings, which were once plentiful, slowed to a trickle and eventually stopped coming altogether. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I believe that Prophet did something to me in the spirit, something that has crippled my ministry and stolen my blessing.